Chapter 961, Warning by Informing. Adam is one step closer to being divine. Such a simple sentence instantly sent tumultuous waves through every member of the Tarot Club. Other than Leonard, the other members, including Sio, who had been briefed of the important points by the magician, immediately recalled the information regarding Adam. Ancient sun god, city of Silver's creator's son, brother of blasphemer Ammon, suspected to be one of the 8 kings of angels. And this mythical figure, who had existed before the cataclysm, had become active in the real world once again, and he was one step closer to being divine. Alger subconsciously came to a conclusion as he hurriedly clasped his hands and couldn't help but have thoughts run through his mind.
This. To make Mr. Fool sigh, it means that Adam is probably just one step short of reaching the divine throne, Sequence 0. There's a chance that he might make that step at any moment. A Sequence 0 true god is about to be born. There are still births of true gods in the 5th epoch. This will be the first true god this epoch. With deities no longer able to descend upon the real world, it's unbelievable that a Sequence 0 would still appear.
Alger always found himself ambitious, with him now setting his sights on Sequence 2 to become an angel. But after hearing about Adam, he still found it unacceptable. One had to know that the last one to become a Sequence 0 true god was the former god of craftsmanship, the present god of steam and machinery. And that happened in the late 4th epoch. Since the 5th epoch, over 1,300 years, there hadn't been any new existence reaching the divine throne. Amidst Katlaya's scattered thoughts, she suddenly came to a realization, as though she could see the waves that marked the end of an epoch flooding over.
It's no wonder Mr. Fool said that the times will change as a result.
Having already gathered the ingredients and being in the process of making preparations for the Sequence 4 ritual, she believed she had the chance of attaining divinity in the near future to change her existence. She was still reeling in joy, anticipation, and unease, but at this moment she suddenly felt a baffling sense of horror. All she wanted was to communicate with Queen Mystic face to face to confirm the future. Force, Shio, and the other members had a myriad of reactions. On the one hand, they were shocked that Adam was attempting to achieve divinity, never expecting such a matter to happen in the 5th epoch. On the other hand, they were worried for their present life. After all, be it Emlyn from the Sanguine or Audrey who lived amongst the Lowen Kingdom's upper class, all of them lived in the 5th epoch, living in a situation which had more than 1,000 years of history setting the foundation. They didn't dare have any sacrilegious thoughts towards true gods. Even when facing evil gods like the true creator, they still felt a deep sense of fear and awe, acknowledging their level and loftiness. Therefore, they couldn't believe that a god would soon appear. They couldn't imagine what would happen next. In their eyes, the Fool was a reawakened ancient god, an existence who originally sat at the throne of Sequence 0. Derek was mostly excited, as though he could see hope and have a target to strive for.
One step closer to being divine, becoming a god. To him, only a Sequence 0 could save the City of Silver.
Although Leonard didn't know who Adam was, just the simple words of being one step closer to being divine was easy to understand.
Adam becoming a god.
He connected it to that ordinary priest who had appeared after the battle ended and had picked up 008 in front of Klein.
That's Adam? Or a subordinate of Adam? No, 008 is a grade 0 sealed artifact. Only Adam, who's very close to the divine throne, can do it personally with great certainty. It's no wonder the battle with Ince Zangwill was easier than I expected. I thought the best outcome would be me and Klein dragging Ince Zangwill into hell together. Who's Adam? Why haven't I heard of him?
Perhaps a result of being parasitized by an angel, allowing him to know some of the secrets and developments of the 4th epoch, Leonard had a deeper understanding of Adam's path to being divine. The impact he felt wasn't too great, with most of his feelings puzzlement and curiosity over Adam's true identity. And at this moment the Fool didn't speak again or give further explanations. It was as though he was simply warning the members to make preparations for the change of the times. Amidst the confusion and wandering thoughts, the world-German sparrow glanced at the star Leonard and simply said,
Adam is the son of the ancient sun god, blasphemer Amon's brother.
Leonard immediately jumped in fright and failed to control his expression. He had a deep impression of Amon, and he had a deep trauma for Amon because of Old Man's descriptions. And Adam was Amon's brother, so it was very possible that the level of horror was likely the same between the two brothers. The world ignored the star's reaction and continued.
It can be confirmed now that Adam is one of the 8 kings of angels, titled Angel of Imagination. He is ranked on par with Angel of Time Amon. The reason for him targeting Inzi Zangwo is to obtain 008 to make up any shortfalls for his path to being divine, and his plan succeeded.
Audrey instantly connected this to the Dragon King Ankoelt's title, Dragon of Imagination.
Angel of Imagination. Adam is a king of angels from the spectator pathway.
And she had long known that mind dragons represented the spectator pathway. As for Leonard, another comprehension obstacle appeared before him. He had been stumped by the concept of a king of angels, but he was too embarrassed to ask. He had planned on seeking Old Man's help when he awakened. Algier pondered over Gehrman Sparrow's words as his expression turned slightly odd. He probed.
You seem to have witnessed the matter?
Just as he said that, all of them heard a familiar, hoarse laughter. After Gehrman Sparrow finished laughing, he looked at the star and said, as though it was nothing,
The murder of Inzi Zangwo was committed by me and my partner.
Cataleya's mind instantly went blank. She could accept that Gehrman Sparrow could easily finish off Admiral Hell, but she couldn't imagine that he would one day kill a real Sequence 4 demigod. Cataleya quickly calmed down because, with a king of angels involved in the battle, it was possible that a Sequence 5 could kill off a heavily injured demigod due to various coincidences. Furthermore, he had a partner. Audrey read confidence from the world's tone. She couldn't help but ask out of curiosity.
Mr. World, have you already become a demigod?
The world didn't give a direct answer as he chuckled.
In the future, all of you can entrust matters involving demigods to me.
Every member present figured out the meaning in between the lines. He had become a genuine Sequence 4 demigod. Furthermore, he was the kind who had the ability to kill peers at his level. At that instant, Cataleya became abnormally calm. She tried hard to recall everything that she had seen and heard regarding Gehrman Sparrow. She was very certain that he was only a Sequence 6 before the visit to the ruins of the battlefield of gods. He relied on the glove to match a Sequence 5. As for Gehrman Sparrow's search for mermaids without hunting any of them, it implied that it was a requirement of a ritual. This meant that he had indeed advanced to Sequence 5 back then. His various performances after that proved this point. Today, it had only been about 3 months since Gehrman Sparrow stepped into the ruins of the battlefield of the gods, but he had already advanced to Sequence 4, becoming a demigod existence. This overturned Cataleya's understanding of the world. She wasn't too old, with her age being less than 30, but to reach Sequence 5 and gain the title of Admiral of Stars, it took her about 7 to 8 years. It was only in the past 1 or 2 years did she have the confidence to attempt to breach the gate to become a demigod. With her starting to make preparations, she believed she was already far ahead of the pack.
Mr. World is impressive. He became a demigod so quickly.
Derek sincerely felt joy. His idolization for Mr. World grew more intense as he hoped that he could be like him, becoming a demigod at the fastest speed possible. Audrey was both alarmed and delighted. Following that, she gained an understanding towards the abnormality in Gehrman Sparrow's mental state.
From the looks of it, his low spirits, gloomy and depressed feelings happened after he became a demigod. These are the negative effects accumulated from potions. It's just like how I nearly lost control when I became a psychiatrist. Also, after becoming a Sequence 4 and gaining godhood, he could naturally penetrate more of reality. He then realized that he had been sleeping for a very long time. His family had passed away, making him lose his goals. How pitiful. With his warm nature, he must have had deep feelings for his family and friends. However, I'm so envious. Does being Mr. Fool's Blessed make one advance so quickly? I also wish to become a demigod early. Mr. Fool's mentioned that the times have changed as a result leaves me fretting.
While Emlyn and the other members were still in shock, Alger, who also shared the same feelings and felt deep envy and jealousy towards Gearman Sparrow, had other thoughts.
As Mr. Fool's blessed, Gearman Sparrow's embroilment with this King of Angels and 008 matter clearly isn't an accident. On the contrary, it might be more reasonable that it's a mutual plan between Angel of Imagination Adam and Mr. Fool. That will explain it. Two mythical figures that existed before the cataclysm. One is awakening and the other is making an advancement, the two secretly coming together.
Amidst his thoughts, Alger had another idea.
Since Adam had obtained 008 and opened the door to the divine throne, what about Mr. Fool? What benefit did he get in this matter?
Subconsciously, Alger turned his body and slightly bowed his head to look at the seat of honor. He didn't dare look directly, and could only look through the corner of his eye. Chapter 962, Being Known. Almost instantly, Alger discovered that Mr. Fool was somewhat different than before. In the past, although Mr. Fool was distant and profound, making him appear unfathomable, as though he was looking down upon everything from above, that was all. It wasn't like he was now. Even though he wasn't doing anything, he seemed to have fused with the entire space, a clear expression of him being the ruler at the pinnacle level. Sweeping his gaze, Alger saw the third card of blasphemy, as he felt more certain of his guess. Indeed, Mr. Fool and the Angel of Imagination Adam had cooperated to machinate Ince Zangwill's demise. One of them obtained 008, making him take one step closer to being a god, while the other obtained the various benefits in a card of blasphemy and regained a substantial amount of his strength.
The times will change as a result.
At that instant, Alger had a deeper understanding of what Mr. Fool had just said. The other members undoubtedly noticed him turning his head, and they realized that he was looking at Mr. Fool. After a brief moment of surprise, they made a certain realization at different speeds. Mr. Fool was aware of Angel of Imagination, Adam's plot against Ince Zangwill from the very beginning, and had sent his blessed to cooperate. He had even provided a certain level of help. If that weren't the case, how could a recently advanced demigod participate in a matter that involved a king of angels and grade 0 sealed artifact? If this weren't the case, the world wouldn't have been able to understand the situation that well, even if he had been embroiled due to all kinds of coincidences.
The obtaining of the card of blasphemy, Mr. World's advancement, Ince Zangwill's death, the meeting of Angel of Imagination Adam's goal. These all happened in 1 week. This means that the relationship between them is tightly intertwined. My previous intuition was right. The obtaining of a new card of blasphemy and the appearance of an abnormality in Mr. World's mental state were the different outcomes of the same matter.
Audrey nodded very slightly as she confirmed her theory. Leonard was increasingly convinced that Ince Zangwill's matter was more complicated than he had imagined. Apart from King of Angels Adam, there were likely other important figures of similar levels appearing back then. Otherwise, Amon's brother, the son of the ancient sun god, had no need to seek out Mr. Fool's help. After all, no matter how powerful or terrifying 008 was, it was incapable of comparing with the blasphemer, as described by Old Man, as Adam and Amon were likely on par with each other.
The evil spirit that Klein pulled into the underworld probably isn't simple. It's definitely not something that being from the hunter pathway would be enough to describe it with. Klein's participation in the matter regarding Ince Zangwill isn't solely for revenge, but is also due to Mr. Fool's orders.
As Leonard sighed, he didn't generate any negative feelings. Instead, he was secretly relieved. From his point of view, this was a very ordinary situation. Mr. Fool's agreement in convening such a gathering to establish a corresponding organization while hosting it as a deity was definitely not because he solely wished to make the area more lively or being done out of goodwill. He definitely had his goals and needs that he wished blessed like Klein or members like him could complete. Therefore, seeking revenge on Ince Zangwill and accepting Mr. Fool's mission wasn't in conflict. The latter didn't reduce the former's meaning and importance. As for why he was relieved, it was because Leonard believed that Mr. Fool's clear expression of his goals had made it better than having everything chaotic and unknown. He didn't need to guess or wait with trepidation. He originally had intense wariness for Palais Zoroast precisely because he wasn't sure of his true motives. At this moment, the fool Klein didn't say a word. He didn't confirm or deny the members' guesses and theories. Controlling the world, he made him continue.
Adam might have established a very secretive organization, and it has been secretly steering the development of the times. Many important figures you might never have expected are members of this organization. They would machinate one matter after another. Also, after leaving this place, do not say or write down Adam's name, including his title. Try not to think about such matters, because he has the trait of any mention of it will be known. The more you know about him, the more he might know about you. This is somewhat similar to 008.
After hearing Mr. World's description, Audrey instantly recalled learning of the mysterious organization from Mr. Fool, the Twilight Hermit Order. This made her quickly come up with a corresponding theory.
The King of Angels Adam was the leader of the Twilight Hermit Order. The Angel of Imagination was a member of the Spectator Pathway, likewise for 008. Therefore, any mention of it will be known was a beyonder power of this pathway at higher sequences. Likewise, for the more you know of it, the more it knows of you. Impressive. But won't this be rather noisy?
Audrey momentarily looked forward to it with envy, while also feeling worried and puzzled.
Any mention of it will be known. So the organization behind the assassination of Duke Negan, the one backer behind Kulongos, was established by King of Angels Adam.
Elger was first somewhat enlightened before his expression fell. He began to suspect that the primitive island that he had previously explored was related to this secret organization. This was because Kulongos had once ventured deep into it and discovered several items. Furthermore, the final disappearance of the island had resembled the powers of the Dragon of Imagination, as described by the Sun. Putting the two together, Alger couldn't help but come up with such a theory as he made a deeper realization that Mr. Fool's cooperation with the Angel of Imagination had started when he and Gehrman Sparrow stepped into that primitive island. He was more convinced that it was the truth, because after the existence in that island's ruin awakened, the only thing that happened was a sigh. He and Gehrman Sparrow weren't stopped from leaving.
So that's how it is. The way important figures set up their ploys are truly well concealed. I didn't notice it at all back then. The games between gods are truly complicated. Perhaps only Sequence 1 Beyonders or even King of Angels are qualified to participate.
Alger sighed as he felt a baffling sense of desire. Fours had already forgotten the mysterious organization which Mr. Fool had mentioned previously. Only when she heard any mention of it will be known did she recall that it was related to Duke Negan's assassination. However, she wasn't concerned about this problem but something else. Back when she was informing Shio about the general situation of the Tarot Club and the general knowledge, she had mentioned Adam's name.
Adam has the trait of any mention will be known. This. Sao and I are known by him.
Fours instantly felt horrified, as she couldn't help but turn her head and cast her gaze to Shio. She had learned that Adam was the son of the Creator from Mam Hermit. Furthermore, she had never emphasized to not mention the King of Angels' name in the outside world.
I've mentioned Adam in the real world.
Fours said with a clear stammer. Shio's nerves were taut as though a venomous snake had crawled into her clothes and was sliding across her back. Cattleya tersely acknowledged.
No need to worry. Although not many people know of Adam and Amen, there's no lack of them. I've mentioned his name on several occasions. As long as the words you mention doesn't involve any secrets, I believe he will only observe you for a moment before casting his gaze elsewhere.
She was rather certain when saying that because, in the Moses ascetic order that had been pursued by knowledge, Adam's existence wasn't a secret. People often mentioned him.
Could it be that the secret ancient organization that Emperor Roselle joined was the one that King of Angels Adam established?
At this moment, her mind was filled with another matter. Fours hurriedly tried recalling and said somewhat hesitantly,
There were mentions involving the Forsaken Land of the Gods, the Giant King's Court, Amon, King of Angels, and other knowledge. Would that be a problem?
She was very happy that she had never mentioned the words Tarot Club or describe the other members. At most, she mentioned that the gloomiest was Gehrman Sparrow. Catalea thought and said,
At your sequence, discussing knowledge at that level is indeed strange. However, if Adam were to delve deeper, he will realize that you're related to the Abraham family. It's quite normal to be aware of this information. What you need to pay attention to is that any major matters involving the Abraham family will require you to be wary of Adam.
How do I be wary of him?
Forrest forced a helpless smile as she glanced at the seat of honor at the long bronze table. Then she looked back at the hermit and said,
Thank you for your analysis.
As Mr. Fool hadn't said anything, she decided to believe Ma'am Hermit's words. At this moment, Klein sighed inwardly. Back when Cattleya mentioned Adam during the tarot gathering, he wasn't aware that Adam's name wasn't to be verbalized, nor did he know that he was related to the Twilight Hermit Order. It was only when he entered Grozel's travels and learned from ascetic Snowman about Adam being the angel of imagination that he grasped this point and came up with the theory. After seeing Mr. Dorr's warning from Emperor Rozel's diary and gained preliminary confirmation, he ultimately lacked the opportunity to warn the various members. Furthermore, the way the Archbishop of the Church of Steam casually mentioned Adam's name made him believe that many people in the real world knew of Adam and that it wasn't taboo. Furthermore, Adam might not be his full name. He wasn't in a rush to guide the conversation towards this, but he was waiting for an opportunity.
Any mention of it will be known. The organization established by Adam is really impressive. Is this the target our tarot club is aiming at?
As Emlyn reflected over it poignantly, he gained a clear picture of the tarot club. He had previously been figuring out a category for the tarot club. He realized that it wasn't like an Orthodox church, and it was unlike the other secret organizations. Apart from being a Messiah alliance, there wasn't anything too special. It muddled his analysis, and today he finally confirmed that the early development of the Tarot Club could match Adam's organization. Knowing 008's trait, Leonard wasn't surprised that Adam had a similar trait. He was more concerned about the organization with many important figures participating, as well as the Abraham family which Ma'am Hermit had mentioned.
This family's standing in the Fourth Epoch was very high.
He had once heard Palez Zoroast mention Chapter 963, Problem with Intelligence. According to what Leonard knew, amongst the major noble families of the Fourth Epoch's Tudor Empire, the Abraham family was ranked first. It was even stronger than the Amon family who had the blasphemer. Of course, he couldn't be certain if the Amen family didn't have any members, that it was all filled with the Son of God's avatars.
Miss Magician is actually an important member of the Abraham family. Everyone here isn't to be trifled with. Is this what's called a gathering of protagonists?
Leonard first sighed before he made a self-deprecating comment. Derek didn't say a word, nor did he make any connections. He seriously listened to Mr. World's description, as well as the conversation between the two ladies, the magician and the hermit, before keeping them to heart. To him, the other members were in the outside world. Regardless of what happened, it had little to do with him or the City of Silver. Only matters regarding the King of Angels was something to be concerned about. After all, be it the Angel of Fate Ouroboros, the Dark Angel Sasrir, and Red Angel Medici, they had left traces around the City of Silver. As for the Angel of Time, Amon, he had personally visited it before, bringing about inexplicable horror. After everyone quietened down, Derek couldn't help but consider certain matters.
Any mention of it will be known. How should I inform the chief about such matters? Or is it fine not saying it for the time being? I'll just mention that Amen is a son of the Creator, that he has another brother who's of the same pathway as the Dragon of Imagination. If the City of Silver were to encounter an overwhelming disaster, would Adam be able to hear it if I said his name? Can he enter the forsaken land of the gods?
With this in mind, Derek instantly felt somewhat ashamed. This was because, in such situations, the honorific name he should chant was Mr. Fool's. At this moment, the world spoke again.
Although War Angel Medici has long perished, he isn't completely dead. The soul he left behind has fused with the souls of the ancestors of the two major families of Sauron and Einhorn, forming an evil spirit. During the death of Ince Zangwill, there were traces of its appearance.
Klein had specially brought up this point to firstly pass this information to the Church of Evernight via Leonard. Secondly, it was to remind the hanged man to take note. After all, he had been to Banzi twice, possibly embroiling himself with the Red Angel evil spirit's fate. While Leonard was feeling alarmed, he was taken aback.
That evil spirit was War Angel Medici.
He had just guessed that Adam wasn't the only bigwig who had been present. Later, setting off from the titles of War Angel and Angel of Imagination, he suspected that the evil spirit was a king of angels in its former life. And such an evil spirit had been sent to the underworld without putting up any resistance under the influence of the Luck-Siphon charm.
Old man's level is higher than I previously imagined. Yes, the evil spirit must have been weakened by Adam, and perhaps even by Mr. Fool, before Ma'am Daly and I arrived. Otherwise, it's not an enemy we could have handled. Right, what was Adam doing back then? There wasn't any sign of him during the entire battle. Could it be that there was another figure at the level of a king of angels, holding back Adam?
Leonard felt tumultuous waves swishing through his heart as he forgot to observe the reactions of the other members.
War Angel Medici. He perished and became an evil spirit. Banzi was the place. His descendants lived. He was one of the founders of Rose Redemption.
Alger quickly linked up the pieces of information and learned many new things.
That mural I saw in the Banzi Harbor Telegraph office must have been drawn by that evil spirit. The World Gehrman Sparrow had gotten me to head to Banzi Harbor to search for traces in order to grasp that terrifying evil spirit's location. It was to prevent his subsequent plans from being disrupted. Thankfully, I didn't destroy that mural. Otherwise, I might have caught the notice of the evil spirit.
While Alger sighed in relief, he felt increasingly alert. He planned on getting the Blue Avenger to leave Banzi Harbor and head for the northern front of the Sonia Sea to investigate the matter Mr. Fool had previously given him. Audrey, Catalea, and the other members listened attentively as they kept it in mind without making too many connections. This was because the matter the world was describing contained information that mostly consisted of key and rich points. And lacking the additional experiences and knowledge, they were unable to expand on the matter. After sharing the information that everyone needed to take note of, the world chuckled hoarsely.
That's about it.
After a brief silence, Emlyn straightened his back and looked ahead.
An important figure from my kind will arrive in Backland, and a meeting with me has been arranged.
After a pause, and seeing how no one responded, he cleared his throat and asked,
How should I deal with him?
Him. Another angel.
Leonard felt numb as he noticed something. Mr. Moon had mentioned the concept of his kind, and he had red eyes. Leonard was taken aback as he thought to himself,
He's a sanguine. Sanguine. Don't tell me he's Emlyn White from the Harvest Church. He had been close to Klein's identity as a detective.
Leonard couldn't help but look at the Moon side profile and figure a few more times. The more Leonard looked at him, the more familiar he appeared. He was almost certain. Without any doubts, Emlyn noticed the star sizing him up, just as Audrey was surprised and excited to confirm that Mr. Star had suddenly realized he knew Mr. Moon.
Did I say something wrong? That fellow, the star, looks somewhat astonished. He knows me in the real world. Do I know him?
A series of thoughts flashed through Emlyn's mind as he subconsciously sniffed, trying to catch the scent of the new member beside him. However, the gray fog ensured that he failed. As he surveyed the area and waited for the hanged man, the hermit, and the world to provide him with an analysis and suggestion, he tried hard to recall if he had met someone like the Star. Gradually, he felt a sense of familiarity, but he couldn't recall who it was due to the superficial impression the person left on him. At this point, Audrey recalled another problem.
Mr. World and Mr. Star know each other, and Mr. Star knows Mr. Moon. Then, does Mr. World know Mr. Moon?
She subconsciously sized up the person at the lower end of the long bronze table, but she failed to read anything of use from the World Gehrman Sparrow. As for Alger, He turned to look at the moon after a few seconds of thought. He said with some deliberation,
Mr. Fool just mentioned that the times are changing. Although the important members of the Sanguine might not know of the ins and outs, at their level they will more or less sense something and make preparations. The reason that this important figure wishes to meet you is both a probing action and surveillance. You just need to act as you usually do, but there will subsequently be some tests and missions.
As I imagined, a second test and mission will begin. I wonder what revelation the ancestor has given.
Emlyn nodded and said to the hanged man,
Thank you.
With the question answered, Fors, who had been holding back all this while, finally spoke.
Mr. Moon, the intelligence you gave me regarding the abandoned ancient castle was highly problematic. There were 2 ancient wraiths, but in the underground area was a door. Sealed behind the door is a powerful, corruptive power. As long as one enters the region where the ancient wraiths are, they will be corrupted.
This.
Emlyn frowned slightly. He wasn't enraged, and he instead felt that her description was completely right. If the person who had provided the intelligence knew that there were 2 ancient wraiths, he wouldn't have ignored that door. As a cultured and noble sanguine, Emlyn never wished for anyone to incur any losses or harm because of his mistakes or neglect. He was rather perturbed by this, as he thought and solemnly said,
I will investigate the source and provide you with an answer.
As Fors had returned safely, she didn't mind it too much. She tersely answered, indicating that she was awaiting the outcome. As for being saved by Mr. Fool, with it happening once a month, or even twice a month, she had already lost count. She was prepared to do anything Mr. Fool instructed her to do in the future. After they finished their conversation, Audrey was somewhat concerned. She asked out of curiosity,
Do you know what brought about that corruptive force?
Fors shook her head.
I don't know.
With Mr. Fool not sharing any information and how she didn't have any Roselle diary entries to exchange for the answer to the card of blasphemy, Audrey retracted her gaze and attentively listened to the conversation of the other members. After a while, the learning segment came to an end as the Tarot Club drew to a close. The members stood up and bowed at the existence at the end of the long bronze table to bid him farewell. This time, Leonard didn't appear too slow. The dark red light dissipated as he returned to the real world. In front of him was a red glove he hadn't worn. At this moment, a slightly aged voice suddenly sounded in his mind.
Whose dream did you enter a moment ago?
Old man has woken up.
Leonard was first delighted before he heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't immediately answer Palez Zoroast as he deliberated over an answer.
Say, it is possible that, at certain times, Dwayne Dantes is Isaac Eggers who's disguised using some particular item?
After learning that Dwayne Dantes was a shared identity, he began doubting Old Man's original theory. This was because this parasite had come to a conclusion based on the different appearances and auras of Isaac Eggers and Dwayne Dantes. Furthermore, not every one of Mr. Fool's Blessed looked identical to Dwayne Dantes, nor were every one of them Beyonders of the Seer pathway. Therefore, since a shared identity was needed, it meant that they wielded a mystical item or sealed artifact that allowed them to transform into someone else. Together with the ancient aura of being a blessed causing some interference, it wasn't impossible for an angel to make an error in judgment. Palez Zoroast fell silent for 2 seconds before saying,
You reminded me. Isaac Eggers does have a mask that allows him to transform into anyone.
Chapter 964, Medici's Cause of Death. As expected. After confirming his hypothesis, Leonard didn't harp on the matter as he returned to the topic at hand.
Old man, didn't you ask whose dream I entered?
Yes. On the day we sought revenge against Insezangwil, Ammon's brother and the King of Angels appeared.
In his mind, the slightly aged voice didn't immediately reply. After a few seconds, there was a sigh.
It's just as I expected. Matters related to 008 will often attract Adam. Thankfully, I chose to sleep ahead of time.
Leonard didn't have the time to ponder over Pallas Zoroaster's words, as he instinctively cried out.
Old man, you said his name.
Adam's gaze was about to be cast over, or might have already landed on them, the slightly aged voice chuckled.
You actually know about Adam's trait. However, me mentioning him doesn't matter. He will only imagine that someone else is talking about him. Of course, there's no need for you to know too much. That will definitely make you occasionally think of it. Once that happens too frequently, or at a close physical distance, Adam will also know of it, just like 008. Furthermore, 008's influence is limited to a huge city, while Adam's is the entire world.
As horrifying as Amen. Another form of horror.
Leonard composed himself and forced himself to stop thinking about Adam as he ruminated over what Pallas Zoroaster had said. Suddenly, he nearly blurted out, without suppressing his voice.
Old man, did you sleep not because you were weak, but because you were afraid of encountering Amen's brother?
Pallas cleared his throat.
Ahem. It was a result of both reasons, but they don't contradict one another. After giving you the 2 worms of time, my condition deteriorated again. Under such circumstances, how am I to deal with a king of angels and conceal my existence? I'm already old and feeble. There's no need for such developments, so it's almost necessary for me to hide.
Leonard was momentarily at a loss for words and said after a few seconds,
Amen and his brother should be older than you. The ancient sun god is an ancient god before the cataclysm.
Without waiting for Pallas Zoroaster's reply, he heaved a sigh of relief.
That is to say that, because of your act of sealing yourself and sleeping, that king of angels didn't discover a problem with me?
Pallas chuckled.
No, it was discovered.
Leonard's expression sank as he nearly looked around frantically. He suspected that Adam was sitting in some corner, silently listening to his conversation with Old Man. At this moment, Pallas Zoroaster added,
You are very close to him. Do you think you can hide from a king of angels, who has accommodated the spectator pathway's uniqueness? Besides, you likely cried out, Old Man, impolitely, at the most critical moment.
Leonard was taken aback as he subconsciously answered.
You heard it?
He suspected that Old Man had heard him, but had deliberately chosen to ignore him for fear of being discovered by Adam. Pallas's slightly aged voice teased.
No, I don't have to hear it to know what you would do. How can I not be aware of what kind of person you are?
Amidst Leonard's embarrassment, Pallas Zoroaster continued.
Adam definitely knows that you've been parasitized, but as I'd sealed myself and was asleep, he didn't discover who was parasitizing you. The demigods with such abilities aren't many, but it's also not a very tiny number.
Is that so?
Leonard instantly heaved a sigh of relief. He was most worried about having Adam see Old Man before returning to inform blasphemer Amen. With this in mind, Leonard raised a question he had been wondering all this while.
Old man, what's a king of angels?
Pallas Zoroaster didn't ask where Leonard had learned of this concept, as he simply explained.
Those that exceed sequence 1 but have yet to become a deity. If we are specifically talking about the 8 kings of angels, apart from those that meet the previous definition, they're the ones who served the ancient sun god before the cataclysm.
What does it mean to exceed sequence 1 but have yet to become a deity? How is that achieved? By accommodating the so-called uniqueness?
Leonard had the intention of asking, but he suspected that Old Man wouldn't answer in detail. He gradually decided to first talk about other matters before finding an opportunity to raise this issue again. He deliberated for a moment and said with a suppressed voice,
During the battle for revenge with Int Zangwil, I faced immense adversity, to the point of not being able to look at my enemy head-on, much less use the luck siphon charm. When seeking your help failed, I chose to chant Mr. Fool's honorific name and had received a response. After everything ended, I found myself heading for an ancient palace, as though I was dreaming. It was above the boundless gray fog.
Before Leonard finished his description, Pelez, who had been listening quietly, cut him off.
You met the fool.
Yes, his aura is vastly deeper than the sea, loftier than the mountains. His figure was cloaked in the gray fog, preventing anyone from seeing it clearly.
Leonard recalled his encounter and described in a poetic manner.
He established an organization, holding a divine council, a true one, every Monday afternoon. I'm already one of the members.
Pelez fell silent once again and didn't say a word for quite some time. Only after a while did he say,
The fool allowed you to tell me this?
Yes.
Sitting there, Leonard nodded and let out a suppressed voice into the air as he said,
Old man, do you know him?
Pelez Zoroast sighed and said,
No, but I can roughly guess of his origins. You don't have to ask what it is, because I won't tell you. This might be an opportunity for you. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to become a demigod.
Leonard turned agape before closing his mouth. He stopped mentioning the tarot gathering because Mr. Fool hadn't given him permission to go into the details of other matters. He thought and said,
Old man, is there another king of angels named Medici, known as the War Angel?
Pelez tersely acknowledged.
You can also address him as Red Angel. However, he has long perished. You were even close to where he died.
Where?
Leonard was surprised, but he had no impression of that happening. Pelez scoffed.
Are the memories of you people from the Evernight pathway so terrible? I recall that your goddess wasn't like that. Do you still remember the ruin found beneath Backland?
The Tudor Trunsoist United Empire? The place where Alistair Tudor became Blood Emperor?
Leonard asked in enlightenment. Pelez Zoroast's slightly aged voice resounded once again.
That's right.
As Leonard tried to figure out the logic embedded in this matter, he informed Old Man of the evil spirit.
The remnant soul of Medici fused with the two angels of the Sauron and Einhorn family, becoming a brand new evil spirit?
Pelez repeated Leonard's words in disbelief. Following that, he couldn't hide his amusement and said,
The three of them are absolute archenemies, the kind that can't stand each other's existence. To think that they are together in death, fused as one, is truly, it must be quite lively.
Leonard didn't know what Old Man was laughing about as he subconsciously asked.
They are archenemies?
Pelez held back his laughter as he said,
Yes, the reason why Medici failed and was captured was because he was dealing with the Sauron ancestor who had fallen into his trap. It wasn't that he wasn't prepared, but that was mainly focused on the primordial demoness's side. Surprisingly, Alistair Tudor suddenly went mad. On this matter, Amon and Adam had played a rather important role.
That evil spirit is an enemy of Adam. Why would the Blood Emperor want to capture Medici and the two angels of Sauron and Einhorn? The place they perished was in the palace, where Alistair Tudor was trying to become Blood Emperor. They were the ritual materials needed to become a true god. According to Mr. Fool, Adam is one step closer to divinity after obtaining 008. Is this also considered a gathering of materials? Aemon is dealing with Old Man because of similar reasons?
Leonard had some theories and had the urge to ask, but he ultimately held back. He was afraid that he touched on highly secretive matters, causing Old Man to react negatively. He planned on finding an opportunity at the Tarot Club to ask about such matters. After a brief silence, Leonard looked at the closed door and said, with a suppressed voice,
Has Mr. Fool and the Church reached a certain degree of tacit cooperation?
That's the implication, if no one is investigating you.
Pelez Zoroast answered in a rather direct manner. Leonard nodded indiscernibly.
What will they arrange me to do next?
Arrangement? Reward you for the services rendered and allow you to advance to Sequence 5 after you finish digesting the potion. Then, you'll be allocated a Red Gloves team and you'll be sent to complete missions. Otherwise, they might send you to a large diocese like Backland to be a deacon in charge of certain matters.
Pelez said without much concern.
Back to Backland. Klein seems to be planning something in Backlund.
Leonard's thoughts were suddenly liberated. He didn't converse with old man again as he slumped against the wall and cradled his head with his hands, sitting rather leisurely. Late at night, in the border town of East and West Balaam, outside a row of warehouses, dressed in a formal suit, Dwayne Dantes, with his white sideburns, was holding a gold-inlaid cane. After exchanging signals and countersigns with the officer on duty, he watched as the officer opened the door to the warehouse and heard him say in a relaxed manner,
"It's everything inside. Check the goods and move it yourself. Also, pay me the remaining amount before leaving."
Dwayne Dantes nodded slightly and weighed the suitcase in hand. In it was £5,000 in cash entirely from May Sanchez's down payment. At this moment, two figures were silently watching this develop 2 warehouses away in a 3-story building. Chapter 965, Brief Crisis. On the top floor of a small building, a black-haired, brown-eyed man donning dark-colored clothes was looking down at the arms deal not far away. This man, who looked about 28, couldn't help but say,
He actually got May Sanchez. Oh, holy Lord of Storms, Alfred. If I had known it would turn out this way, we might as well have done the mission ourselves. Even if all the expenses are deducted, we should still earn at least £20,000.
The man beside him was a young man in a black trench coat. He looked about 24 and had a head of resplendent blonde hair and blue eyes that resembled a lake. He had pretty good looks. Being addressed as Alfred, he shook his head and said,
"No, that would be too noticeable. May Sanchez's allegiance has always been unclear. Before figuring out his take on matters, rashly discussing an arms deal with him is extremely dangerous. Dwayne Dantes is able to earn £20,000 because he dares to take the risk."
The black-haired and brown-eyed man immediately scoffed.
To think that Alfred Hall, who has led a few dozen men to assault a battalion with over 1,000 troops, would claim that he doesn't dare take risks.
Alfred shot a glance at him and said,
"Pagani, this isn't the same thing. That happened because I was confident of wiping out their command center. And once there's a lack of leadership, 1,000 scattered troops might not be as formidable as 1,000 pigs. In addition, the transaction this time is solely a test. It's to establish communications and to set up a channel. If it's done by us, who are we to seek out the next time, and the subsequent ones? If we keep at it, we will ultimately expose ourselves. Once that happens, it will be a diplomatic matter. Furthermore, with the deals deepening and broadening, who knows if this would incur the notice of the demigods of other factions? That would spell danger."
"Ha ha," Pagani said with a smile.
How can demigods be that free to pay notice to such small-scale arm deals? Every faction has a limited number of demigods. There are too many matters awaiting them.
"I know. I'm only raising an example," Alfred replied in a staid manner. Pagani didn't harp on the matter and turned his gaze back to Dwayne Dantes, who stood outside the warehouse.
This gentleman is said to be very generous. He donated stocks worth more than £10,000 to the Church of Evernight shortly after he arrived in Backlund. Is this the early-stage investments that you often speak of? Also, he seems to be working at the same charity foundation with your sister, Trisk. Such men are very welcome with the young ladies. He's good-looking and has an outstanding demeanor. He's smart, experienced, and has the artifice. He has seen all kinds of women, and he's at the age to settle down. Alfred, you have to warn Audrey that a playboy will always be one, and that one's moral character is a flaw that can never be corrected. You can't let the most dazzling jewel of Backlund be taken by this fellow.
Alfred turned his head to glare at Pagani.
"There's no need for you to show any concern about such matters. Audrey isn't a young and clueless lady. Her knowledge of the world is far more mature than you imagine. Besides, my father and mother are in Backlund. They have the ability to prevent any nasty things from happening."
Upon saying that, Alfred looked at the nearby arms warehouse and paused.
"May Sanchez actually sent haggis. I'll go greet him."
This isn't the best time to meet, right?
Just as Pagani was about to say a word, Alfred had already turned to walk down the stairs. Klein, in the form of Duane Dantes, didn't bring any servants. He held his gold-inlaid cane and stood with May Sanchez's representative, Haggis, outside the warehouse. They watched as crates of munitions were carried out and loaded onto carriages. At this moment, he half turned his body upon sensing something and looked elsewhere. The person that was reflected in his eyes was a young man wearing a trench coat without a hat. His blonde hair was combed into a slick back, and his blue eyes looked like a lake under a bright, clear sky. He was tall with a good build. His every move exuded an indescribable sense of dignity. Even without any troops surrounding him, the authority he wielded was obvious. "Alfred!" Haggis noticed the man as well when he cried out in delighted surprise.
Alfred, Miss Justice's second elder brother. This feeling resembles that of the arbiter pathway.
Klein raised his right hand and took off his top hat to press it against his chest as a form of greeting. After Alfred Hall greeted Haggis, he turned to look at Duane Dantes.
Your character is widely spread across Backland. Even I've heard of you, despite being in East Balaam.
Character A. Character at making arms deals?
Klein lampooned as he chuckled.
I'm only doing things that I believe need to be done.
Alfred nodded.
I believe there's no need for any self-introductions. Haggis should have mentioned me to you.
Yes, Colonel Hull, Klein replied with a smile. I only learned that Miss Audrey has another brother here in the southern continent after I arrived, that he served in the military and has rendered impressive services.
Alfred cast his gaze on Duane Dantes's face and changed the topic.
I thought you would take the opportunity to work at the Lowen Charity Bursary Foundation, but you surprised me by choosing to come to the southern continent.
Klein maintained his smile from before.
For an outsider to truly enter a pre-existing circle is quite impossible, just by giving donations, doing charity, and hosting balls and banquets.
Alfred tersely answered.
Very wise.
After exchanging a few pleasantries, he asked Haggis,
Did something happen in Kukuwa? It seemed rather serious.
Haggis squeezed a smile.
I'm not too sure. I was hiding in an underground bunker at the general's residence. I later heard that there was a lightning storm at Revival Square.
Lightning storm.
Alfred's gaze turned towards Duane Dantes again. Klein nodded and said,
Indeed. The hotel I was staying at isn't too far from Revival Square. I did see continuous bolts of lightning striking that area. All of that happened in the day.
Alfred's gaze turned towards Haggis again.
What happened to the scene in the end?
Most of the area was in shambles. There were marks of lightning strikes. Haggis didn't hide the truth at all.
Alfred nodded gently and pointed to the side before saying to Haggis and Duane Dantes,
I still have other matters to tend to. We can chat again when the opportunity arises.
See you again? Klein politely replied.
It made them appear to be at a social gathering instead of being outside a munitions warehouse. Cess. He was watching Alfred Hall leave when his body trembled. His head made an abrupt turn to the side. In the primitive forests that covered East and West Balaam, a figure was slowly outlined with his back bent. Nolojashafishiuam. He had a fleshy face with slightly brown skin. His clothes were baggy, and he had a rapier by his waist. In his hand was a silver mask. Vishitheis with slow. Looking to his sides, this figure straightened his body. He was none other than Admiral Hell Ludwell, who had previously entered the underworld. However, at this moment, 2 clumps of blood-red flames were burning in his eye sockets. He looked completely different from before.
I'm starving. Ludwell opened his mouth, letting out a sigh that seemed to come from his chest.
He then cast his gaze in a different direction, muttering,
The owner of this marionette is over there. Fate has brought us together again. He has a hunter pathway item on him. It's perfect for replenishing myself.
Just as he said that, a bloody mouth appeared on the left cheek of Ludwell's face. It opened and closed as it said,
Medici, what we need to deal with first is our survival. After this marionette loses its connection to its owner, it's no different from the dead. The remnant spirit will quickly return to the underworld and not be able to maintain the body. And without the underworld inside him, we will inevitably be weakened until we dissipate.
Yes, the most pressing matter now is to find another gatekeeper.
Another mouth appeared on Ludwell's right cheek. Red Angel Medici immediately scoffed.
Sauron, Einhorn, were the two of you women in the past, your nature as angels has been left in the dumps because of you. That fellow was able to resist 008's arrangements several times, implying that he's definitely not simple. With a chance to lock onto him, how can we give it up? Once this marionette completely dies, things wouldn't be that simple again. Besides, the hunter pathway item on him can effectively extend our existence. Once we finish him, it wouldn't be too late finding a gatekeeper.
The bloody crack on Ludwell's left cheek immediately scoffed.
Medici, have you sacrificed your brain to the true creator? That fellow has clearly advanced. In our current condition, defeating a bizarro sorcerer isn't difficult, but killing him is nearly impossible.
Medici wasn't frustrated, and instead he laughed deeply.
This isn't something unresolvable. As long as you allow me to chant my lord's honorific name, helpers will immediately arrive. A gatekeeper might even be automatically brought here.
The mouth on Ludwell's right cheek immediately opened and closed.
Sauron, let's work together to stop him and search for a gatekeeper.
All right. The mouth on Ludwell's left cheek didn't hesitate to reply. Upon seeing this, Red Angel Medici laughed.
The two of you have fallen for it. My goal has been met. I can confirm that the two of you were previously women.
Shut up! Humph! We've been merged together for 2,000 years. Would we not know what tricks you're up to? There's no need to struggle again.
As they spoke, the colors around Admiral Hell Ludwell instantly saturated and stacked upon one another. He had entered the spirit world and began traversing it. Outside the munitions warehouse, Klein finally retracted his gaze as his premonition for danger vanished. For that one moment, he had a baffling feeling, but he was unable to project the corresponding scene in his mind.
What happened?
Klein muttered to himself. Without waiting any further, he threw the suitcase in his hand to the officer who was in charge of handing and taking over. Then, he said to Haggis,
"The rest is yours. You can give me the rest of the payment."
He was referring to the heavy case filled with gold bars and coins. Haggis had planned on having drinks with Dwayne Dantes after the completion of the deal to celebrate its success and to discuss any future deals. He never expected Dwayne Dantes to be in such a hurry to leave.
"All right. It's on the carriage," he pointed and said.
Alfred, who had already walked quite a distance, turned his head to look over, perplexed. He wasn't sure why Dwayne Dantes wasn't following the pre-designated procedure.